I think we are good to go. I want to welcome everybody to our weekly edition of Conversation Cougars. And I'm so pleased to have Bruce Johnson with us this evening. It's good to see you, Bruce. I appreciate you making some time to spend with us this evening.
Hey, always great to be in Cougar land.
It sure is. And as you guys know, we've been doing a series of these over the last couple of months, and we're going to keep doing them on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock right here, as long as we can, as long as we got Cougars who want to come talk. And for those of you who don't know Bruce, and I suspect there probably aren't many who are going to be on here tonight, Bruce patrolled the defensive backfield for the Cougars in the early 80s under Coach Griffin. And I've got to say, from my perspective, I was a couple of years, well, I still am a couple of years younger than Bruce. But what I did not like about Bruce was how athletically gifted he was, because the balls I seemed to throw ended up with number 86, Bruce's number at the time, much more so than they landed with my guys. But we'll get into that in a few minutes. But Bruce, I've always admired you, just being one of those Cougars who just, you were the epitome of what our program was all about. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I wanted to welcome you to our conversation this evening.
Well, I appreciate that, Bernard. Hey, just glad to be here. Hey, there's been many great athletes at Northview High School, as you know. And, growing up, it was just, I would say it was peer pressure to excel when we were coming up. And it was just great memories for me.
It was, and we're going to hop into that in a minute. But before we do, you got a whole bunch of folks who are giving you shout outs right now, Bruce. Chris Parker, Eric Easley, Josh Andrews, Jason Mullins, Stephen Collins, Charles Bronson, Coach Rick Cleveland, Hunter Parrish, CC Dixon. A whole bunch of folks are in here sharing some love for you tonight. So there'll be others who will roll in.
That is awesome. Awesome. Much love to the Cougar family.
That's right. These are always a lot of fun. But Bruce, before we jump back in our time machine, tell folks where you are and a little bit about yourself and your family these days.
Okay. Currently, my family and I, we reside in Houston, Texas. I'm married to my beautiful wife of now 29 years. She's an Auburn grad. Actually, we started dating after I finished college. And have two sons. Austin is my oldest son. He finished from St. John's University in New York City. He's currently on his own, thank God, working, gainfully employed. And my youngest son is now at the University of North Texas. He plays cornerback like his father played, and he's majoring. He's on schedule to finish next May. In supply chain and logistics. So I'm very proud of both of my boys and my beautiful wife.
That's so awesome. Well, hopefully with Cameron, we'll get to see him on Saturdays this fall, we hope, and maybe on Sundays in a couple of seasons from now. But if that doesn't work out, it sounds like he's got a plan.
Oh yes, that's right. Always have a plan. Always have a plan.
Oh, that's so great. And then Bruce, what keeps you busy these days when you're not having to deal with what we're all dealing with, the quarantine? What keeps you busy from a job standpoint?
Yeah, I've been in the chemical manufacturing business for over 30 years. So my current role is a senior global director. I support 62 of our facilities. Wow. I get an opportunity, been blessed to travel around the world. One of my favorite past jobs was I lived in China for 4 years, was able to build a grassroots plant, multi-million-dollar plant. Love the food there, love the people there, but I had to come home.
Is there, I'm going to put you on the spot. Is there in the Chinese language or Mandarin, whatever you were speaking, is there an equivalent for Northview Cougars?
Northview Cougars.
It translates across all languages. I get it. I get it. Well, Bruce, do you still have family in the Dothan area? I know you're in Houston, but do you have family still in Southeast Alabama?
Yes, I'm blessed to have both of my parents are still living. They're in the Dothan area. I was just there in March, right before all of us are now suffering from the COVID crisis. So actually, I was in Dothan March 18th is when I left to come back to Houston.
Mm-hmm. Coming on 2 months.
Yep.
Well, growing up in Dothan, what neighborhood or where did you call home? What streets did you get to play ball on?
Uh, if my home was actually next to Northview High School. Okay, so I was on Bunch Street. There's that gas station that's right there.
Sure,
Okay,
sure.
there's a street right by the gas station. I stayed right down the street from the gas station adjacent to Northview High School. So I walked to school.
So Coach Parrish and Coach Griffin knew that you had no reason to ever be late to school.
Oh, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Well, Bruce, growing up in Dothan, did you play Little League ball? Did you play in junior high or in middle school? Where did you go?
I did. I played Little League ball, the infamous Stringer Street Bulldogs from Coach Johnny Potter. I played middle school ball at Carver. And then, of course, I went to the now infamous Northview High School.
Yeah, we're all a little sad about that, but it is what it is. Now, growing up, did you play multiple sports? Because I knew you played basketball at Northview as well, but younger than high school, did you play basketball or baseball, other sports as well?
Yeah, I did. Actually, I played baseball, football, and basketball. And actually, David, I don't know if you remember David Vollinger.
Oh, sure. Big tall dude.
Yeah, we played on the same baseball team and won the city championship. Matter of fact, we beat Barry Hightower for the city championship. And
wow.
Now that was a big feat to do that.
It was a big feat because I know that Barry was the same class as you and David, graduating in '84. And I was on that team that we made it to the semifinals against Fairhope in the spring of '84 when Barry had such an amazing season, and then he got drafted by the Mets in, I think, the 4th round. But Vollinger was on that same team, and so many other of your classmates, Leo Butler, of course, Mike Rookard,
great athletes, all of them.
Gilliard. I could go on and on and on. Wes Whitfield, but let's take it back now. You're at Carver for middle school. And I assumed you knew you were coming to Northview, but had you visited the campus before you actually enrolled? Did you ever come over for any reason?
Yeah, I mean, I was around the corner from the high school. So, going to visiting the school since it was around the corner. But I tell you, Bernard, growing up and having the opportunity to go to Rip Hughes and see, players like Dwight Jones, Danny Carmichael, Daddy Fat. I mean, it was absolutely amazing the type of talent. So that put a lot of pressure on you to improve, right? If you weren't ready, you had to improve.
I was just getting ready to say you got to earn your stripes before you get to play in between the lines. And for those of you who I assume you know this, I'm not actually at Rip Hughes, but that's an awesome picture that I wanted to share with you guys. A little virtual background. But Bruce, did you, in 9th grade, I know you played basketball, I know you played football. Did baseball go by the side or did you continue to play baseball?
No, I focused on, it was a commitment, time commitment. I focused on, basketball and football. Went to several camps, in 10th grade year, and I felt like 10th and 11th grade year, and I felt like, football, I could probably develop more in football if I just spent the time. I know Coach Rick Cleveland is on the line, and I played in 9th and 10th grade, and I know he's probably still upset that I didn't play junior and senior year, but coach, it all turned out for the best.
It always does. It always does. But Bruce, you were a freshman in the fall, I think of the fall of 81 or 80, because I'm trying to remember.
80. So I was a sophomore doing that state championship team.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to kind of skip over ninth grade and talk about that fall. You're a 10th grader. Where were you on the depth chart? What position were you playing? And who was also in the defensive backfield with you?
So at that time, I was getting beat up by folks like Tim Whaley, Pye, Kosher Bird, Leon Mars, John Kite. Those guys were beasts.
Mm-hmm. They were, but I know you also got some playing time because it was hard to keep you off the field just given your God-given talents and your desire. But I can remember I was in eighth grade the year that the team went all the way in 81. And I can remember sitting in Rip Hughes Stadium and seeing all the players on the sidelines. Everybody, it was big crowds, of course, lots of enthusiasm. But I always focused on the backup quarterbacks and the guys who were not in the game to see what their body language was like and how they were pumping up the team for those guys. And I know it's very hard to be a second and a third stringer, but when you're younger and you've got such studs ahead of you, it's hard to break into that starting lineup. Do you remember having conversations with either Coach Parrish or Coach Griffin about playing time and getting your chance and showing what you could do?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of discussions with Coach Griffin. At the time, Bernard, I'll be honest with you, I was a $145, and that was with my uniform on. So I knew my sophomore year that I need to get bigger, stronger, faster. And but I had a lot of guys, so there's a lot of history for defensive backs at Northview High School. Coach Griffin's a great defensive back coach, and the history behind it, there's a lot of lineage, of great defensive backs coming out of there, and it was always a pay it forward. So the older guys kind of brought me up. They raised me up like from a little pup, and those were my great. Now that didn't stop them from knocking my helmet off. Now, okay, but they taught me the ropes, and when they went on to their college careers, then that set us up, set the older guys up, and we just kept it going. The guys after me was Butch Henderson. You had Reggie Thompson. You had several other players. Mark Reeves.
I was going to say, Bruce, all during the 80s, there were such tremendous athletes on the defensive backfield, such respect for those guys. Mike Henry being another one. He was a year behind me. But Bruce, oh gosh, Butch Henderson, all those guys were so well coached by Coach Griffin. But I want to put a smile on your face. I want you to share, what is it that you enjoyed or that you liked? And maybe there wasn't a lot. Maybe at times it was tough. But what did you like playing for Coach Griffin? What was it about Coach Griffin that really motivated you?
Coach Griffin was a perfectionist of the craft. Okay, and when you took that first back pedal, it was a sense of pride. Okay, he was a tactician. He was a perfectionist, and learning from guys like Tim Whaley and Kershaw Bird, looking at how much work they put into their craft, and Coach Griffin always making those small corrections to get you to be able to compete on the field. It was just an incredible experience for me. So, but one of the funniest times for me, Bernard, was as you know, Doug Jones was a great athlete. He's well known in the Dothan area. Great guy. Doug was very punishing. I think Bud, in your last interview, Bud Young mentioned his punishing running back. And my senior year, I got a little bigger and a lot more confident. And Doug ran a sweep my way, and I came up and I hit it. Okay. And we went down, he went down. But guess what, Bernard? I couldn't move.
Oh,
So
boy.
I never forget Coach Griffin is like, hey Johnson, it's okay. I was like, Coach, I can't move. He said, Johnson, it's okay. He said, the feeling has come back, you know, in the movie it says, can you see the light? Come near the light. And so
Yeah,
I had some great memories, great memories.
I suspect when Doug hit you, you knew you got hit.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. That's
But
for
on
sure.
the other side, I saw you many times deliver a punishing blow. But I always wanted to ask you, how did you end up with number 86? That's an unusual number for that position.
I'm glad you brought that up. So as a sophomore, Bernard, you know, and having all the studs as you mentioned,
Mhm.
I was given number 86. Okay, because I was a lowly sophomore, right?
Right.
Okay, and when all the seniors left and those guys left, I had the opportunity to change.
Mhm.
Okay, but I was like, you know, the number doesn't define the player.
Mhm.
So I kept the number 86. That was what was given to me when I was a lowly sophomore. Okay, and I wore it with pride. And I knew that on the field, that everybody would say, well, why is that defensive back wearing number 86? Okay, but I wore it with pride.
And you wore it well. You certainly wore it well. I want to take you to let's say your junior year, or sometime sophomore to junior year. When did the college coaches start coming around? When were you starting to think about playing at the next level? Take us through that mindset, maybe conversations with the coaches or with your parents. What was going on in your head at that time?
So at that time, you had camps, you had Ray Perkins camps, you had the Pat Dye camps,
Mhm.
and actually, I went to the University of Alabama's camp, Ray Perkins camp. There were some of the greatest DBs across the country that attended the camp, and I won the best defensive back. And after winning that award in that camp, I went to Pat Dye's camp, went to several other camps, and I just felt, hey, I can compete with everybody, anybody in the country. So at that point in time, I start focusing on the craft and getting bigger, stronger, faster. So it really happened to me the summer of my junior year.
And we'll get to Cameron's experience in a few minutes. But back in our day, the recruiting process was so different. They send you the questionnaires, they call the coaches. Obviously, there was no internet, there was nothing online, there was no cell phones. When you got those letters coming in the mail to the coaches, and I know Coach Parrish's history was hiding those letters because he didn't want his players to get the big head, his term. But when you started getting those letters, was that building some excitement for you?
Yeah. So you know, Bernard, my senior year, the letters turned into phone calls after games. Okay,
Mhm.
so you know, a coach would call and say, "Hey, we're gonna be in Montgomery to watch you guys play. Sitting in Lanier, we're in the stands watching. You just want you to know we're watching." So, junior year letters, senior year it started. You know, they started actually calling. You know, calling home. So, my
Well,
my parents at the time, I never forget when a call would come. I would be upstairs and they would look at me downstairs and say, "Okay, you can pick up. We're picking up," and they would listen.
they
They would
were,
listen.
they were
Yeah,
on.
they would listen to those college coaches, and I'll be honest with you, you know, at that time, it was unheard of for an athlete to go into engineering and play football, and so that really drove my decision to go to Tuskegee University. They gave me an opportunity. You know, a lot of the larger schools, they knew that engineering interfered with practice, and I had a coach that committed to me and my family to allow me to, if there was a late class, okay, I can come to practice late. You know, at the time, I was the only engineer on the team as a freshman and through my senior year. So that was kind of what that process, that recruiting process, that's what drove me to go to in '84. It was Tuskegee Institute. After that, Tuskegee Institute became Tuskegee University in 1985.
Well, I was just getting ready to say, I know you had a very decorated career while you were there. You guys were the conference champs several years in a row. But before we get into that part of it, I want to stay with the Northview part for just a few minutes more. What was it like in your senior year? You guys in '81 had won the state championship as a sophomore. You come back in '83, excuse me, in '82. And I think Dickie Lillard may have been the quarterback. Leo is in the wings. He took over the next year. A lot of talent graduated with that '81 state champs team, but you guys still had so much talent. I was coming up 9th and 10th grade, 2 years behind you. And I was just in awe, because when we would go to those practices, I wasn't getting much reps, of course. I was with the scrubs. That's why you were intercepting a lot of my passes back then. But it was such great experience for the younger guys to go against the first teamers, or to have to throw against you or Ron Ely or any of those guys that just had so much experience. But here's my question for you, Bruce, is going into the next season, of course, we thought we were going to repeat, but I think the reality of the coaches knew that so much talent had graduated. It's especially playing in the Wiregrass and in our conference, that's tough. It's tough to come back, but the expectations were always there. How did you guys stay motivated? How did you motivate the younger guys? I can remember many senior-led discussions with the coaches having walked off and you guys pumping us up. But what was it? Where did it come from? What was in that mindset?
Well, when you had guys like, my junior year, we had guys like that were seniors at the time, Ahmed Fitch. You had guys like Jonathan Woo Woo Parker, Leo Butler, Kenneth Owens. You had many, Doug Jones. Okay, you had many of those guys around. I mentioned before, Bernard, that when I was coming up, it was a lot of peer pressure. Okay, so outside of just Northview High School, we had Walton Park, that's very near Northview High School. It would be knockout, drag out times, during that time. So you ask what motivated it? It was a lot of peer pressure. So you had to elevate. You had to elevate your game to just stay on the field.
Well, I was going to say, Bruce, there was so much athletic talent. Every one of those names that you've mentioned, and almost every name that we've mentioned tonight, went on to play at the next level at some college or university.
That's right.
And that just showed just how rich the athletic talent was that was coming through Northview in the early '80s, all through the '80s. But Bruce, I'd be remiss. I got to throw some more names who've been jumped on here.
Right.
John David Edwards, Leslie Holly, Tracy Cantaloupe, Craig Tyre, Mike Henry. So many greats from the past. Thank you, guys.
Cantaloupe, Henry, all of those great athletes. I mean, they were younger and came after us, but as we both know, the history just kept evolving. Just kept on it. It's just. I miss that it's not Northview High School. I got to deal with it. All of us do. But things that you're doing now, and I appreciate having the opportunity to coming on here interviewing. This is great. This is what keeps our history alive. That legacy of Cougar pride. So keep it going, Bernard.
Well, thank you. Twist my arm to keep doing these, please. No, these are as much fun for me as they are for anybody, Bruce. But I appreciate that. All right, let's take it to your senior year. That's the season of '83. You've got big expectations. There's several guys in your senior class who went on to play in college. And I want you, for those who list some of those names of those guys who are in your senior season, your senior class.
So Doug Jones was a senior, Jonathan Parker, Leo Butler, Reggie White, Richard Shaughnessy was there. Let's see who else. David Hall David Hall was there. And I tell you, he may have been small, but he was one of the meanest nose guards. That David Mims.
Yeah.
I never forget. Oh, I never forget Mims.
Those are the kind of guys who you were glad they were on your side and your team because you did not want to face them.
Yeah, that's right. Great memories. You're bringing back great memories.
Well, you just mentioned in that offensive backfield, that's three of the most talented guys to come through the program ever for their respective positions. Leo Butler, who ended up in the Navy and had a fine military career, and I want to get Leo on here. Doug Jones, if I remember correctly, maybe signed with UT Knoxville, and Woo Woo ended up playing, had a great career at Chattanooga.
Exactly.
So it's
yeah. Leo went to I think he ended up going to Marion Military Institute before he went to the military. So you had a lot of great talent.
And a lot of guys who played multiple sports, all those guys. Richard Shaughnessy, people may not remember, was an excellent pitcher in baseball. Leo threw as hard as anybody in baseball. And they were part of that team that ended up in the semifinals against Fairhope. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's stay with high school before we get on to college. But Bruce, I want you to tell us who are some of the players you remember competing against with other schools, maybe a game or two that stuck out that, man, I had a good game, or I really remember that win, or just anything that comes to mind.
So I think the class of '84, some of the great athletes that we played against Andre Bruce. Mm-hmm. Andre Bruce was a linebacker. I think he went on to go to Auburn and actually ended up being a first-round draft pick. Mm-hmm. There were several receivers on Carver's team, Sidney Lanier. Prattville was always a great team. They always kept great athletes. I think we started playing Kendrick, I believe.
Out of Columbus, yep.
Yeah, they weren't as good as later years during that time, but they always had a lot of great athletes. And of course, Bernard, our crosstown rival, Dothan High. Dothan High had a lot of great athletes. These were guys that we grew up, playing Pee Wee football with, or Pee Wee baseball. But all of us grew up. We grew up together. We got bigger and stronger and faster together. And that Dothan High School rival, you had folks like Johnny Miller on the team. We played against who else? Some great athletes. Vincent Jones. Mm-hmm. Vincent ended up going to Auburn. Actually, I think he made first or second team All SEC. So you had a lot of great athletes that we played against during that time.
Yeah, I don't think that people really realize the amount of talent, not just at Northview, but at Dothan and Houston County as a whole. It's a shame it couldn't all be funneled into one school. Imagine the team that they would have put together back in the day. But Bruce, I want to take you to a game, and I want to say this might have been your senior year. I can't remember. We were at Prattville, and Jeff Coleman was one of our tight ends. And I think, forgive me, Leo, if it wasn't you, but I think you may have thrown a little tight end pop pass over the middle, and Jeff caught the pass about the same time the free safety came up and actually flipped Jeff in the air. I don't know if you remember this, but I'm a 10th grader watching on the sidelines, and I had never seen a player hit that hard before. And Jeff, I think, split his chin, held on to the ball. But I remember that being, Mark Reeves just signed in with us. So I want to say, hey,
how's it going, Mark?
And he wanted to thank you and Butch Henderson for the leadership, hard work ethic, and showing him how to play cornerback. Absolutely. That's what it was all about right there.
Yeah. That's about paying it forward.
Well, Bruce, let's graduate from Northview and let's take it up to Tuskegee. What were some of your first impressions about the difference coming out of high school, and now you're with collegiate players from all over the place, not just the neighborhood where you grew up, but you go from being a big fish in a medium-sized pond, now you're kind of a smaller fish in a bigger pond.
Speed. Speed. So, in high school, some games you were probably able to be more dominant. because maybe the talent level didn't match up. But when you get to college, the guy behind you, he's very hungry. And even today, is some of the advice that I give my son that's playing for North Texas now. Don't get hurt. The guy behind you is hungry. Okay, and in college, it was the biggest difference was speed and also the size. So I'll tell you a story, Bernard. When I left Northview High School, I was 5'11", 185 pounds, and by the time I graduated from Tuskegee, I was 6'2". So funny story. The class of '84 had a class reunion, and we were taking a class picture, and I was in the back standing up, and I was wondering, well, why are my classmates tiptoeing beside me? And they were actually angry. Okay, and I tried to think, what's going on? I said, they have me frozen in time.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
so it was frozen in time, but I did grow. I got taller in college, so you can call me a late bloomer. Guys like JP, Jonathan Parker, and Woo Woo and Doug. Those guys were beasts 8th grade, and they were ready for varsity. But my development happened later in the junior and senior year, and my growth was just late, and that's I guess that's how God wanted it to be, and I'm blessed for it.
Well, Bruce, in my mind's eye, you were 6'3" when I met you as a 10th grader. You covered so much territory. I always thought you were just a lot taller than 5'11", but at that time. But I want to welcome one of the biggest supporters in Northview history. John Reddick has just joined us. I want to say hey to John, one of your
Yeah,
class.
how's it going, John? Class 84.
Well, we're going to talk about your experiences playing on the college level. But before we do, your son Cameron, who's now playing at North Texas, went through the recruiting process much more recently, but it's a whole different world. How did you take your experiences as being a recruited athlete way back in the day? And did he listen to you at all? Did he take it in stride, or was it, Dad, I got this? Talk to us about that dynamic.
Okay, well, as you know, the social media is very different than when we played. It was watching film, and the ticker tape film that we used to watch, and then it progressed to VHS tapes. But for my youngest son, you had Twitter, you had a Huddle. Right after the game, the film is in a coach's hand. So it's a bit different. I believe they have many more opportunities than we did, for sure. But he did listen. He did listen, and his dad had to learn how to use Twitter, and college coaches, that's how they engage the kids. Okay, they don't call the parents. Yeah. They don't call the coaches. Okay, they get on Twitter, and it's a one-on-one conversation with the coach. So that was a learning experience for me. It's very different. We're in different times, but
it's almost to me, and I had a daughter go through the recruiting process, and she played lacrosse in college. It's an arms race to see how quickly they can get on the kid's radar. That's right. And I'm not speaking for your son's experience or my daughter's experience, but from what I've seen as a whole, getting to these kids in 8th and 9th grade, or even earlier if they're a projected, big time player, it's too much too soon. And we could have a whole conversation just about that. Yeah. But I think it really takes a collective family effort to help guide that student athlete in the right direction. They see all of the players on social media and playing on Saturdays and Sundays, and it's, the big dreams. But I think, and I know you've done such a beautiful job. I've seen Cameron's social media, and I've seen him play on film, that he's humbled. He knows where he's come from. And I don't know if that's a little bit of Dothan in him, or that's some Johnson, in him, or your wife's side?
That's my beautiful wife. That's my beautiful wife in it.
Well, whatever it is, it's working for him. So we certainly wish him the best, and we're going to be rooting for him.
Yeah,
But
thanks. I appreciate that.
absolutely, absolutely. I want it now. I know I keep skipping around, but Bruce, I got so much to talk to you about.
Okay.
I want to talk about some of your experiences playing collegiate ball. We do talk quite a bit about the Northview experiences, and I don't want to skip anything you want to share about that, but I know folks want to hear about the differences. You know, my experience playing at Vanderbilt is much different than your experience playing at Tuskegee, which is much different than anybody else. But who talk to us a little bit about the expectations when you got to Tuskegee, maybe some memorable teammates, coaches, games, those kind of things.
Okay. So a little background, Bernard. I came in after I graduated from high school. 1 week later, I was in college. Okay. I was on college on a minority engineering scholarship that summer. And I vowed not to tell any coach because I was supposed to report in August. I vowed that I would never tell the coach that I was there in summer school. Okay. But the coaches found out I was in school. And when they did, it was unmerciful. Okay. But it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. During the summer, I was able to learn the playbook as a freshman, and I was able to compete. And you know, I won a starting position as a freshman. I started, and but the biggest thing was speed and size. Folks are just more consistently athletic at every position. I got a chance to play against some great players, Hall of Fame players. Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp went to Savannah State. He played wide receiver. You know, in the NFL, he transitioned to this hybrid wide receiver, tight end type of individual. I played against guys at Fort Valley State. Greg Lloyd. Greg Lloyd was a superhuman linebacker at Fort Valley State. I played against many great athletes. We played Florida A&M. A lot of great athletes. Gene Atkins was strong safety, free safety for the New Orleans Saints. So we played against a lot of great skill position guys during my entire career at Tuskegee.
Well, I know that, and I'm gonna brag on you for just a minute, and I want you guys to look in the comments section. But what I put there was a link to Bruce has been inducted into the Tuskegee Sports Hall of Fame, and for 2019. And this is the place for me to publicly congratulate you. Well earned. You guys, if you don't know, go look up Bruce's accomplishments playing at Tuskegee. You need to. You'd be very proud of him. He's humble. He's not going to brag on himself, so I'm going to do it for a minute or two. And how many games out of that 4 years, Bruce, did you get to play?
Every last one of them.
I was getting ready to say, if there was one thing they could pencil in every week, it was one man's name, and that's the fellow over here. And I know you wouldn't change those experiences for anything. And I don't want to talk now about on the field, but I want to talk about off the field. I want to talk about your friendships, the camaraderie, maybe some fun things that, you know, being an athlete, you had such a time commitment. It's a 40 to 60 hour a week job back in the day, not like they have now with all the time limits. Even at Vanderbilt, we were working just as many hours as any other school. So you had to be very organized. And being in the engineering department, you had very little free time whatsoever. I don't know when you slept, much less, I was going to say, much less work out. But certainly you've made friendships that you've had for the last 30 years. And I know that you're probably thinking of some of those fellas and maybe some women back in the day. And have you stayed in touch with those people?
Bernard, we yes. The answer is yes. 30-year relationships with folks like Dale Sweet Holmes, wide receiver that played in the All-Star game. I remember going to Dale's. I was a sophomore. going to Dale's All-Star game, played in the same All-Star game as Jerry Rice and Willie Totten. Um, Rudy DeVoe, another Hall of Famer at Tuskegee. I can go on and on, but those relationships are lifelong. We actually, if you see some of my social media posts, you may see Golden Boys for Life. So Tuskegee was a Tuskegee University Golden Tigers, and hashtag Golden Boys for Life. So it's heartfelt. The relationships that have been made, they're lifelong. They'll always be lifelong.
And I too have those kind of relationships with some of my former Vanderbilt teammates. But going back even further, I bet you've got neighborhood friends and Northview friends, Carver friends. You may not talk to them for a couple of years, but you pick up just as if you had just got off the phone with them or seen them 2 days before.
Exactly.
And Bruce, I bet those stories, everybody remembers a little bit of the truth of the actual story, but then the stories just keep getting bigger and bigger. Am I right about that?
You're right about that. You're right about that. Bernard, I was recently in Dothan, had the opportunity to pull in a class of 84, 83, even Alex Thomas. Alex Thomas was a defensive back at Auburn, came to Dothan High. So, the Dothan area is special for me. I never forget one of our VPs, our executives for the Lubrizol Corporation. When I was in China, he's like, "Hey, Bruce, you're a long ways from Dothan, Alabama." But I'm proud to be from Dothan, and I know you are too, and all of the Cougar family. We're proud to be from Dothan, Alabama.
Absolutely. And I want to welcome Jenny Parrish Scott, Coach Mrs. Parrish's daughter, who's always been a big supporter, and Rue Freeman, my fullback from back in the day, have joined us. And guys, we're talking Wisconsin. Yeah, Rue, what a great dude. I want to get him on here too. We've got just another minute or two, Bruce, and I sure appreciate you spending some time with us, sharing some awesome stories. I want to leave you with this, and having just gone through the recruiting process with your son, for those who may be watching this now or later on, if they have a child, regardless of the sport, who's being recruited and some schools are showing interest in this technological age of social media, what kind of approaches would you give for parents who want to encourage their children, a boy or a girl, regardless of what their sport is? What's a good approach? And I know that every approach is different for everybody, but I'm just wanting some insider information from the Bruce Johnson family, how they did it.
Okay. So one is stay engaged. Stay engaged with your child. A lot of times they're prideful and they may not want to share those posts or those Twitter messages from the coaches, but it's your child, and you need to stay engaged with them. Be supportive of them, because you go from one day of not being known to a national type recruit. Stay engaged with them to keep them grounded, because a lot of attention can get to your head, and just need to make sure that you keep them grounded. And stay engaged with their coaches. My son's coach and we're best of friends now. Okay, that's probably unheard of, but I respect the guy, and stay engaged with the coaches. Let them know that you care about your child. And for us, my wife and I were we're sticklers for education. You can't get a scholarship without having grades. Okay, so they both go together. That's why they call it student athlete, and that's the biggest thing. And you and I and several others, we've been blessed with the opportunities to take advantage of the opportunities that we got as a student athlete.
Oh, Bruce, such solid advice. And one thing I want to add to what you said, is it's not all just about Division I. That may be what's in the eyes of your student athlete at home, but there is a lot of money and a lot more opportunities out there on the Division II and Division III. They can offer combo scholarships, maybe a little academic money and athletic money. Anyway, enough of that. But David Mims just joined us. David, you need to go back and listen to what Bruce had to say. And I see that Mrs. Fitch has joined us. I don't know if that's Ahmed watching us or not, but if it is, or to Pamela, hello to you guys. And Butch Henderson just joined us. Guys, you need to go back and listen to Bruce. This has been so much fun for me, Bruce. I sure appreciate your time tonight.
Hey, Bernard, I appreciate the opportunity, and much love to my Cougar family. Class of 90, class of 84, you rock.
That's right. 86 here. But guys, this is going to do it for tonight. Another awesome discussion with Bruce Johnson out of Houston, and just telling it how it is. But thank you for spending some time with us. We're going to get through this pandemic. Y'all are tired of hearing me say this, but just be patient, be smart, do the right thing. We're going to be back with you next week. I can't remember who's on the schedule, so forgive me. I don't have it in front of me. But Wednesday night, 7 o'clock right here, we'll have another Cougar with us. And you guys have a good evening. Be well.